Hey everyone, welcome back to Taking Back Monday. I am so excited you decided to say goodbye to the Sunday scaries and hello to the future of work. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to take you back to 1999 when a small, unconventional movie hit theaters and turned the world upside down. I'm talking about The Matrix. Neo, the main character, is just an average guy, working a job he doesn't love, living a life that feels just a bit off. Sound familiar? One day, he's presented with a choice: take the blue pill and stay in his comfortable yet unfulfilling life, or take the red pill and see how deep the rabbit hole goes. Neo's journey is all about self-awareness, realizing that the world he knows isn't what it seems, and that he has the power to change it. It's not easy, and it does require him to step back, question everything he thought he knew, and ultimately decide who he wants to be. Now, why am I bringing up The Matrix on a podcast about leadership? Because like Neo, every leader faces that choice. Do you stick with what's comfortable, just going through the motions, or do you take the hard road, confront your gaps, and become the leader you were meant to be? Today's guest, Karen Colligan, is going to help us explore that red pill path, how to define your leadership style, take a step back from the daily grind, and become the kind of leader who not only knows where they're going, but inspires others to follow. So whether you're ready to dodge some metaphorical bullets or just want to be more effective in your role, this episode is for you. I'm so excited to introduce you to my new friend. This is Karen, and she is going to talk to us about the incredible things she's learned about leadership, and you're going to find a lot of really great value in today's episode. Okay.
Thank you. Thrilled to be here.
So I had a great chance to talk with you on your podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I really connected with your idea around defining your leadership style and how you can start to do that. There's about 1,000,001 books about leadership and what that means. But what does that mean for you? How can we do this in a way that's practical and not just kind of like pie in the sky?
Yeah. There's at least 1,000,000 different leadership books and leadership models. And so people get really confused by it. And what occurs is people are like, forget it. I'm not going to do any of it. So what I say to people is it's really, really important for you to step back for a minute, and you really have to think about self-awareness. Who am I at this point in time? What am I great at? What am I not so great at? And then really look at those gaps in between. And if leaders do not take time to do that, then what's going to happen as they continue, Alyssa, to try and grow their business. So they've got their business plan in place. They've got their marketing plan in place. They know where they believe they're going. If they don't stop long enough to say, well, this is how I'm going to lead, nothing else will matter, because they've got to be able to have that vision. They got to have the strategy. They got to be able to inspire people. And if they don't have that, and they don't sit with themselves for a little bit and learn about that, then nothing's going to grow, including themselves.
Pivoting into that, though, I'm a business owner. I own multiple businesses, and I am just so overwhelmed with the day-to-day operations that I have on my plate. My task list, sometimes I don't even want to open it because I'm so overwhelmed with everything that I have to do. Why should I bother to make time for this if I've got other more pressing operational needs?
You have more pressing operational needs at this moment. And I want you to think about the long term. So any foundation eventually is going to get cracks. And when the cracks start to happen, they get a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. The cracks will occur, Alyssa, when you don't step back and say to yourself, how am I going to lead? Who am I as a leader? And without that, and the foundation starts to bubble a little bit, then all of a sudden you're just doing tasks, and it's just about operations, and it's no longer about tomorrow. And as a leader of multiple businesses, as you just indicated, if you don't have that vision for tomorrow and really gain clarity around that so that your team members also have clarity around that, then what will happen is goals will be misaligned. So people always say to me, Karen, I don't have time. And what I say, you really have to make the time, because if you don't, the time is going to find you. And before you know it, you're going to be in those cracks. And before you know it, operationally, you will not be building the business because you are going to be fixing things nonstop.
That's totally fair. If I'm a leader, whether I'm a business owner or I lead a team inside of a corporation, what do I do next? I know that I'm overwhelmed. I'm mired in tasks. I want to look to tomorrow, but I'm really having a hard time, seeing the forest for the trees. What do I do next?
What I tell everyone is they need to take at least 30 minutes a day. And to most people, that seems so overwhelming. However, if you start your day and say, okay, I'll get a cup of coffee, I'm going to sit down today. Where am I going to focus my efforts today? And kind of calm the mind. Don't open the task list. Don't look at your phone. Don't turn on your computer, and just say, okay, for 30 minutes, I am going to really think about what is going to happen today for me, for my organization, and for my team. Then you can go in and start saying, okay, now let's look at the task list. Now let's get some things done. But you have to center yourself. And again, people talk about work-life balance. I'm like, that's the biggest joke in the world. I've had people think since 2000. I call it work-life blend. And it's always going to be coming together. And for you as a leader, you, Alyssa, and your listeners, take some time every single morning and just sit. So I said 30 minutes. People panic. They start sweating. They're like, oh my God, I can't do this. Okay, good. 15 minutes. But you got to center for the day so that you are organized and focused about what you want to accomplish and what you need, as I said, your team organization.
I love that. I was just having a conversation with one of my business partners, and I said, I really just need to block off what I'm going to call puttering time, where I can just kind of like putter around the house or go get some coffee, but I need those moments to kind of step back, because right now my Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays are packed with meetings back to back. And by the time I get to Thursday and Friday, my creative time, I am so burned out. The last thing I want to do is sit down and like think about the vision of the future. I'm just tired because all I've done all week is sit in meetings. So I was joking with her. I'm like, I need to just block off like a couple hours each day to just putter around and kind of like do those things that require that creative energy that I just can't give anymore on Thursday and Friday once I've been in 40 hours worth of meetings.
And Alyssa, that's a really good point in terms of how many times have we heard people or have said, you know what? I was in the shower and I thought about this, or I was on a walk.
That's where all my best ideas come from.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Or I'm exercising and all of a sudden I'm so brilliant. I could have never come up with that in my office. And that's because our brain needs time to settle. It needs time to let other things in because it's so filled all the other times of the day. And so we have to like, okay, brain, take some time so we can fill it back up.
I've gotten really, really good at voice notes where like I'll pull up my phone and I'm being safe. I promise. I'm not like texting on my phone, but I'll pull up my phone and I'll just start talking, and I'll just like let the ideas roll. And even if they're disjointed, even if it's just total stream of consciousness, the ability to just talk at my phone and go back and comb through it later. Right. I always joked, I'm like, I need a notepad in the shower because that's 100% where I get my ideas as well. Like that time when I can't do anything else, I'm not distracted, I'm totally free. I love that. So we've talked a little bit about it, but when it comes to, taking the time to actually commit to your own development as a leader, to your own ownership of yourself and giving yourself the right to lead because you've done the work to become a leader. What should I be implementing? If I'm an entrepreneur or I'm a team leader, how can I make sure that I'm continuously growing while meeting the daily demands?
Yeah. So everybody's different. And as you mentioned, you were on my Let's Talk Leadership podcast. And I asked this question of people, listen, and I say, how do you keep learning? Because if a leader stops learning, they are no longer a leader. And so everybody has to find the way that works for them. So I've heard everything you can imagine, from books, from podcasts, from other leaders, from attending conferences, from listening to podcasts, from actually taking some time to say, what am I a thought leader about? Like, what do I care about? And how am I going to be a thought leader in whatever particular industry you're in? And then you do the research and then you find those thought leaders, and it's about having conversations with people. So it's so individual for people. Again, I'll go back to what I said. You have to take the time to learn, because as soon as you stop learning, then you're no longer leading because you're doing the same thing over and over again.
It's interesting that you say that. One of the reasons I started this particular podcast was to work on my personal imposter syndrome. I get really nervous, or I still get nervous, but I used to be so uncomfortable on camera and on recording devices like this. And so I started this podcast to force myself to kind of immerse myself in this opportunity to learn. The unexpected benefit of doing this is I get the opportunity to talk to incredible people that I would never have access to otherwise. Having you on the show, and some of the people that I've had on the show have such incredible life experiences that I just get to have those conversations and learn through, their wisdom and their knowledge and their thought leadership. So even something as unconventional as starting a podcast has been an opportunity for me to step back and learn and immerse myself in new ideas and new opportunities to grow my personal skills and knowledge.
Yeah. And I love that, because when we are afraid to do something and then we take our steps to break it down and go, oh, maybe this isn't so complicated, or maybe this won't be so hard. And you start to do it. And then all of a sudden, so now, Alyssa, you're saying, wow, not only am I learning, but I'm kind of loving what I'm doing here and speaking to all these people that you might not have access to. So that's a beautiful example of how leaders will continue to learn. And again, so individual for everyone. So everybody needs to pay a little attention. Like, what do I care about? What do I want to be known for? And then start exploring.
I love that. I had a guest on, speaking of learning things, a couple of months ago now, who said one of the greatest lessons he learned is figuring out who knows you for what you want to be known for. And that idea is so powerful to me, to say, Karen, you want to be known for leadership. You want to be known for developing teams. You want to be known for high performance, right? Who out there knows you for what you want to be known for? I think that's a really powerful idea. So one of my personal challenges, and I'm sure that there's many other leaders that can resonate with this, is delegation. It is hard to take something that I've been building and let other people contribute. And I have a weird thing about delegation where it's not so much that I don't want to give it to you. It's that either one, I'm still kind of working it out myself and I'm very much like a kinesthetic hands-on problem solver. Or two, I don't want to inconvenience you in the same way that I've inconvenienced myself. I'd rather make myself suffer than make you guys suffer. But it's a lot of work to delegate. It's hard to delegate both emotionally and physically and organizationally. Talk to me about how people can start to trust their team and get their team involved.
Yeah, well, it goes back to what the leader has to do. They have to do some work on self-awareness. Now, if the leader can sit with his or her team and spend some time individually with them, really working through, again, what are you great at? What are your natural talents? And what I talk about with natural talents is, if I was going to give you $5 million and you could never do this again, you could not accept the $5 million because it's such a part of you. So if the leader sits down and says, okay, knowing I'm going to have to delegate, what you do is, once you start to understand what everybody's strengths are on your team, then you can start to ease up a little bit and talk to them about their roles and responsibilities. You said these are your strengths. And so I have this project, I have this initiative, I have whatever it is. I want to delegate it to you. I'm going to give you what I have to date. This is the outcome we're looking for. I would like to meet you on a weekly basis to talk about your progress so that I can help you work through this. And what happens then, Alyssa, is it's a development opportunity for them. It takes something off your plate and you get to see what your team is made of, what that individual's made of. Are they accountable? Are they reliable? Are they as smart as you think they are? Are they as smart as they think they are? And then all of a sudden, if you're being really specific about particular tasks based on their strengths, voila, it won't be so hard to delegate anymore.
I love that. And the idea that you really get to know that person and what they're good at and what they're interested in, what kind of like feeds their soul in terms of like doing their work. One of the things that I'm working through right now in my own kind of leadership process is what I've been calling the impact method. It stands for intentions, motivation, perseverance, accountability, communication, and trust. Accountability is one that I personally really struggle with. And I know a lot of leaders struggle with. Like, what do you do if you discover that team member doesn't have what it takes?
Well, that's when you have the hard conversations. And that's, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, it is one of the most complicated and difficult things for me that I've ever had to do. And that is to sit down with someone, put them on a performance plan, and begin saying, this is what we need you to accomplish in the next 3 weeks and 3 months, 6 months, whatever your timeline is. And if not, we're going to have another conversation. That, Alyssa, takes so much stamina. It takes so much emotional effort, to say nothing about the intellectual effort. And whoever wants to tell someone they're not doing a good job? No one. So
right,
it's hard.
You've worked with a lot of really incredible leaders in your career. You know, what is one thing that separates a great leader from a good leader?
Well, there's a few things, but a great leader is very clear about who they are, and they're very clear about where they are going. Hands down. If I'm clear about me and I'm clear about the vision of where I'm headed, I can inspire anybody to come along with me. I can build the strategy. I can really have conversations around emotional intelligence, the IQ, EQ, all those things. But you've got to understand what you're great at, and you have to be able to point to a vision.
I love that. So we talked a little bit about it already, but specifically for you, if you could recommend, you know, a thought leader, someone you know personally, basically who out there is leading the charge in taking back Monday that we should be paying attention to?
My thought leader. So I'm a chick from Jersey originally. And so my thought leader is Bruce Springsteen. I have been seeing him for as long as I can remember. I don't even want to say how long. Here's why I say he's a thought leader. He's a visionary. He knows exactly what he's great at. He has a team of people around him that are not only his friends, they're brilliant at what they do. He's very clear about his strategy. He can inspire anybody, to say nothing about 80,000 people in an arena. He's very clear about his IQ, and he's very clear about his EQ, and how he hasn't had EQ his whole life and how he's really had to work. So do I know him personally? No. Do I think I do? Yes. And if nothing else, Bruce Springsteen.
I love an unconventional example of a thought leader who's really changing the game. Someone who you wouldn't necessarily think of as an entrepreneurial thought leader or a business thought leader, right? But that makes total sense to me. Like, he really has, and I think honestly the most successful people really understand who they are and what about them appeals to the masses.
And, you know, when I do all my leadership training, what I often do is I ask people questions very similar to that. Think about a great leader you've had in your life, and who are they, and why do you believe them to be a leader? What are those characteristics? And then, Alyssa, what happens is you start thinking about, maybe I can do that. Maybe I can't be Bruce Springsteen, but I can love what I do.
So, Karen, if someone is really connecting with you, they are really loving what you're having to say and they'd like to connect with you, where can they find you online?
Yeah. Well, of course, peoplethink.biz. Come visit us and you'll see our programs, Keep It Real Leadership, that really looks at equipping that new leader, that emerging leader that really is new to the game and is thinking, what do I have to do? So we have a 3-month, 3-module program. And again, it's on peoplethink.biz. I'm on LinkedIn. Would love for people to come on over and connect with me. And I'm on YouTube, People Think SF, where all my Let's Talk leadership podcasts are. So there's lots of ways to find me.
Thank you so much, Karen. Sunday
Scaries. Get rid of those Sunday scaries. Love it. Thanks so much, Alyssa. I really appreciate it. And I loved being here.
Yeah, it was great to have you.